I don't know why that cut off. All right, 22. The weight in pounds for 15 horses in a stable were reported. The mean, median range, and standard deviation was found. The horse with the lowest reported weight was found to actually weigh 10 pounds less than its reported weight. What value remains unchanged if the four values are reported using the corrected weight? What would remain unchanged? So if this is the lowest reported weight and he actually weighs less, he's going to definitely affect the range. He's going to affect the mean because you're adding a different number and dividing by 15 horses. So that would also affect the standard deviation. So the only one that would not change is the median, the middle horse weight when you list them up in order. So median is just the middle number when you list all the numbers in order. So for example, if the horse was like 50, 51, 60, I don't know how much a horse weighs, whatever. Let's say there was 5 pieces of data. That's the median. Does it matter if this number is 40 or 50? It doesn't change that that is the median, the middle number. Near the end of a cable show, the host invited viewers to respond to a poll on the website. You support the new policy discussed during the show. At the end of the show, the host reported 28% responded yes, 70 responded no. Which of the following best explains why the results are unlikely to represent the sentiments of the whole population of the United States? So this is a U.S. cable news show. Do we care if the percentages don't add up to 100%? Do we care that those who responded were not a random sample of the population of the United States? That one sounds good to me. How about you, statistics people? There was not 50 yeses and 50 nos. The show did not allow viewers enough time. So we need to have a sample of the whole population if we're going to make a conclusion about the whole population, or random sample. 24. This is a quadratic. If f of x plus a equals this, what's the value of a? So we are looking to, this is a transformation. So we're moving this function either right or left a certain amount. So what I would do is find the vertex of this function, find the vertex of this function, and see how far to the right or left it's moved. This function hasn't moved from the origin by much. It's just gone down 3 units. So this has a vertex at 0, -3. Where does this have a vertex? So remember negative b over 2a. So this has a vertex at -3, comma. So -3 for the x value. Then you plug in the -3 into the function. 5 times x squared plus 30 times x plus 42 comes out to -3. So that means that this guy has a vertex at -3, -3. So what's changed? I've gone left 3. So the transformation rule to go left is plus. So the a value has to be +3 to go to the left. So 24 is C. 25. Sine of x degrees equals a. Which of the following must be true for all values of x? So in a right triangle, if this is the x degrees, let's just say, right, the sine value is the opposite over the hypotenuse. Let's say that now you need to find the cosine of the opposite angle. So this is called cofunction identity. Let's call this z degrees. How are x and z related? Well, this angle is actually 90 degrees minus x. And the cosine of this function would have to equal a, because the cosine, whatever this side length is, see how that becomes the adjacent side, adjacent over hypotenuse? So for this identity to be true, this is the cofunction identity. Sine and cosine of opposite acute angles will always be equal. That's a definition of a cofunction from trigonometry. This quadratic function models the height of a projectile if it's graphed in the plane, which represents the real-life meeting of the positive x-intercept on the graph, right? So it's a projectile. What represents the positive x-intercept? It would be the time at which it hits the ground. I hope you all knew that one from Algebra 2. In the xy plane, the graph of a polynomial function crosses the x-axis at exactly 2 points. A and B are positive, which could define the function. So if these are intercepts, we want the factors to be the opposite. So x plus a, right? So that would make it positive a, and that would make it positive b. So the factors are always going to be opposite what you want the intercepts to be, because when you plug that intercept in at a for x, a minus a will give you 0. So 27 is a. 28, if this function is graphed in the xy plane, which of the following characteristics is displayed as a constant in the equation? So I believe they're asking about this constant in the equation, and that is always the y-intercept on the graph, because if you plug in 0 for x's, the 2 is what's left. 29. This scatter plot shows federal mandated minimum wage every 10 years. There's a line of best fit. What does the line of best fit predict about the increase in minimum wage over the 70-year period? Each year, the average increase was $0.096 every year. Each year, the average increase was that much. That's the y-intercept, so it's not that one. Every year, the average increase was this amount. Oh, every 10 years, or every 10 years, it's not this one. So is it every year? The slope of the line is up so much and over so much. So if they're expressing it here as the slope, that's up 0.096 and over 1. So it would be A for the answer to 29. Ice cream sales. Here's a scatter plot. The high temperature, degrees Celsius, 12 different days. What could be an equation of this line the best fit? I caution you because this did not start at 0. So I think they want you to pull back and find the y-intercept to be 402, but you can't do that because this axis doesn't start at 0. So what I would do is let's take a couple data points. What does this point look like? It's around 16,600 maybe. What's this data point look like? It's around 22,800 if we just want to take some rough points. So this gives me 200 as a difference in y, and it gives me 6 as a difference in x. What's 200 divided by 6? It's about 33. So I'm down to these two. So my slope is 33. I think my y-intercept would be around 300 because I've got to go backwards to here. But what you can do to check, you could say d equals 33t plus b, and you can plug in one of your data points and see how close it comes out. 600 equals 33 times 16. Is it plus 300 right here or plus 84? What's 33 times 16 plus 300? 828. What if I do plus 84? 33 times 16 plus 84 comes out to 612, and I wanted it to come out to 600. So the y-intercept is closer to 84. So you can't just assume by looking at the graph because they didn't make the graph go back far enough to 0. So you actually have to plug a point in and solve for your y-intercept. (31) In the xy plane, the circle has a center HK and a radius of 10. What's the value of K? So we know that from here to here, it's a distance of 10. We want to know what K is. K is this value and H is this value. So I think that there's a property that allows me to look at this secant line. See how that's 16 long? And see how this is like between here? If that's 16, then this must be 8. And then that makes this a 6, 8, 10 Pythagorean triple. So K has to be 6, because 6 is the answer. I'd have to look up the geometric proof of why this secant line. Well, we do know that it's horizontal, right? Because it's the XY axis. So maybe that's why. Because it's along the XY axis, we know that it's a length of 16. Yeah, so if we draw a straight line down, we know that we're bisecting it because it would be parallel to the y-axis, I guess. In the xy plane, L is a y-intercept at -13, and it's perpendicular to this line. Okay. Oh, I don't need to write that out. I know that it's perpendicular to this line, so y equals positive 3/2 x. The y-intercept is at -13, and it says if the point is 10 comma b, what's the value of b? So if I plug in 10 for x, so I'm doing 3/2 times 10 minus 13 to get my answer. 3/2 times 10 minus 13 is 2. So y must be, or b must be 2 for this problem. Human blood can be classified into the 4 blood types. It's also characterized by the presence of the Rh factor. The table shows the distribution for a group of people. If one of those people who is Rh negative is chosen at random, so if one of the people who's Rh negative is chosen at random, you're choosing one of those people, the probability that the person has blood type B is 1/9. So what's the value of X? Well, we don't know X. We need to figure out the total number of people. We know that the total number of people has to be 18, I think, because if blood type B with 2 people has to be 2 out of the total equals 1/9, don't we know that the total number of people has to be 18? So if I have 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm missing 8 people that would have to be type O. So the answer is 8. All right. Based on the graph, in how many of the games played did the soccer team score goals equal to the median number of goals for the 29 games? So they want the median number of goals. So I need to add up how many total goals they scored. So this number of games, in 8 games, they scored 1 goal. In 9 games, they scored 2. So how many total games are there? We need the median score. So I have 8 games, 9 games at 2. I had 1 game at 7, 2 games at 5, 3 games at 4, and 6 games at 3. I have 29 games. The median would be the 15, no, 15, 14 on either side, so it'd be the middle number. So it'd be number 15. So this is 8, 7 more. So in how many games? So it's how many games did they score 2 points in? Because if I lined up all these numbers, like I would list the number 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Then I'd list 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, etc. All I have to do is count the 15th term in this list. That 15th term is 2. So 2 is the answer to, oh, not 2. In how many games did they score an equal to the median number? So in 9 games. So 34 is 9 games. Gisela would owe that much each year. She was not eligible for tax deductions. This year, she's eligible for tax deductions that reduce the amount of taxes by that amount. If these tax reductions reduce the taxes she owes this year by D%. So we want to know her reductions divided by her total taxes to see what percent of she deducted. So we want to know what percent of her total taxes is her deduction. So when I divided these, I got 0.15. So that is 15%. They want to know D%. So 15% is the answer. The systems of equations has no solution. If a and b are constants, what is the value of a divided by b? If there's no solution, then a in the top equation is going to be 3/4, just like b in the bottom equation is going to be 1/2. We want the slope to be identical, but the y-intercept to be different. So we want to take 3/4 a and divide by b. I'm going to leave these negative signs alone. B must be 1/2. And when you divide by a fraction, you flip and multiply by the reciprocal. So 6/4 is 3/2. Or you could write it as 1.5 on your grid-in sheet. The table above shows the number of international tourist arrivals. Round to the nearest 1/10 of a million. Based on the information, how much greater in millions was the median number of international tourists to the top 9 tourist destinations in 2013 than in 2012? So to find the median number, I'm looking for the 5th largest in each group. So I'm just going to number. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the median for this year. Oh, and it's going to be the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they want the difference between those two medians and how much greater. So I can just take 47.7 and subtract 46.4 to get the answer. So what's that? 1.3? 1.3 million greater is the answer. For just 1.3, because it says to the nearest 1/10 of a million. And the last one, the number of international tourist arrivals in Russia in 2012 was 13.5% greater than 2011. The number of arrivals in Russia was K million more in 2012 than 2011. What's the value of K? We want the K to the, all right, so X is going to be 2011. 1.135, that would be my 13.5% more than 1, equals 2012 for Russia, 24.7 million. So I'm going to divide by 1.135 because that's my growth factor. I'm growing by 13.5%. 24.7 divided by 1.135 is 21. So 2011 was 21.8 if I round it. 2012 in Russia was 24.7. They want to know it was how many million more to the nearest integer. So 21, 2, 3, 4, it must be 3 million more to the nearest integer.